Part of what compelled me to begin this channel was a deep-seated sense in my own life that America is headed towards some sort of calamity. In no way do I believe I am capable of saving this country, especially not on my own, but I do think it's worth my time to try and make sense of it all, and to see if this new understanding can help me on my journey through the world. It's like a cultural tenseness. It's something I've seen in school and how my classmates relate to each other and the opinions they express. I feel that media outlets as well have taken on an increasingly sensationalist tone in their reporting, and I don't think it's news to anyone that social cohesion in this country is on the decline. So I thought, what better microcosm of this crisis to discuss than the developments surrounding New California? When I first learned of this issue, I believe it was last Tuesday, and one of my friends texted me, "Dude, 9/10 of Cali just declared independence." And for a moment, I thought she meant from the US, that Californians had become so dissatisfied with this country's leadership, namely our current president, Donald Trump, that they had, or that there was some sort of secessionist movement in California that had recently declared independence from the US entirely, or that they were at least making some sort of bid to do so. But this wasn't some sort of sudden, abrupt Cal exit. The schism is actually internal, with much of the interior of the state set to become New California, should any of this actually prove to be successful, which I highly doubt it will be. But who knows, maybe there's a chance we'll get lucky. Either way, what I found especially interesting was that the borders from New California didn't match up at all with the borders for an older proposal or an older concept of this new state of Jefferson. Now, if you don't know what the state of Jefferson is, or the concept of the state of Jefferson is, it is a proposed state, or it was proposed at one time, that would take up some of Northern California, and in some conceptions would take up parts of rural eastern Oregon. And New California doesn't really seem to match that at all. It takes up Northern California, but then it goes all the way down to the Mexican border. Jefferson would be a red state, so the proposal for it was put forth by conservatives who did not feel represented in the state government of California. And New California, or the people who are putting forth New California as a proposal, seem to feel similarly. And I think it would, in effect, create not quite the same thing, since New California would be a lot bigger, but it would also likely be more conservative than Old California, or the remaining coast. I will relate this back to my point at the beginning of the video about the decline of social cohesion in this country by saying that I think this situation is a microcosm of this decline in social cohesion, because I think we can see a conservative minority of Californians looking on and feeling deeply alienated as the coast just becomes more and more progressive, with no clear end in sight to this social change, coupled with general mismanagement by the state government. And I feel like that mirrors the feelings of conservatives on the national level. And by that I mean an anxiety towards this sort of snowballing social change. Additionally, I'd heard that recently there'd been some legislation in California around the transmission of HIV and making it so that it was no longer a felony for a person to knowingly expose their partner to the virus. So as for complaints about governmental mismanagement, I would say that's definitely a case of poor legislation. on the part of lawmakers in California. I don't know if it's just me that feels this way, but I think knowingly exposing your partner to AIDS, something that stays with a person for life, should be prosecuted as more than just a misdemeanor. Were I a Californian, I would be livid. One of the senators who participated in the creation of this bill tried to defend it by saying it was destigmatizing people with HIV or AIDS. But this is a crime that deserves more than just a slap on the wrist. I mean, if someone gave this to you, don't you think you'd just be beside yourself with rage? This is a crime that not only leaves someone with something that is fatal without medication, but it also poisons them and any generations after that which would have descended from them. That is, of course, assuming they don't, realize they have this disease and then stop and then, get treatment and proceed to not have children after that. But it really renders someone incapable of having healthy biological children and prevents them from having any sort of safe sex in the future. Now, while there is medication to reduce the virus's presence in a person, as of now, there's still no cure, and it is permanent. And that's why I think it's knowingly exposing someone to a permanent STD is one of the most evil things one person can do to another. But I think I've gotten slightly off topic. As for my last few thoughts on the issue of New California, I will just say that while I hope they are successful, although I don't think they will be, I don't really like the name they chose, New California. I think they should have gone with something different. Maybe Jefferson, even though Jefferson is traditionally depicted as taking up only a little bit of the North. I still think the name they went with wasn't that great. And the flag they're apparently choosing, which is this gross maroon looking thing with a gold star, I don't really like that either. Either way, those are my thoughts, and I hope you take what I've said into consideration. And goodbye.